What happens when global peace deals, trillion-dollar tech milestones, and historic climate extremes all collide in a single weekend? Well, we are about to find out. Welcome, everyone. If you're a focused learner looking to cut through the noise and get straight to the facts, you are in the exact right place. Welcome to today's Explainer. I'm absolutely thrilled to guide you through the synthesis of the weekend's most critical news, drawn directly from the June 13th, 2026 edition of the Daily Tech Reader. We've got a lot of fascinating, fast-moving threads to untangle today, from geopolitical flashpoints and market-shattering tech IPOs to some historic shifts in our climate and, of course, a roundup of the weekend's biggest sports action. Okay, let's dive into this.
To keep things moving, here's our roadmap for today's news desk. We'll start with global conflict and diplomacy, pivot into tech, business, and economy, check in on domestic politics and law, review extreme weather and climate, and then wrap the whole thing up with a weekend sports roundup. Understanding how all these distinct events intersect is absolutely crucial right now.
All right, Section 1, Global Conflict and Diplomacy. The stakes internationally are incredibly high right now, and things are literally shifting by the hour.
Now, what's really interesting about this is the intense geopolitical paradox unfolding right in front of us. On the diplomatic track, you have Pakistan's prime minister mediating, and an electronic signing of a final U.S.-Iran peace text is supposedly expected within the next 24 hours. You even have Iranian Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi going on state television claiming Iran has emerged from this in a strengthened position. But wait, simultaneously, on the kinetic track, U.S. Central Command just had to intercept a swarm of Iranian one-way attack drones targeting commercial ships in the Strait of Hormuz. So the U.S. naval blockade of Iran's ports remains completely active. It's just a stunning real-world example of diplomacy and active military operations running directly in parallel.
And beyond the Strait of Hormuz, the global security map is lighting up this weekend. First, India's foreign minister filed a formal protest with the U.S. after an American strike on a merchant ship near Oman, part of that Iranian blockade, tragically killed 3 Indian sailors. That's putting a massive strain on U.S.-India relations, which were already stressed by tariff negotiations. Shifting to Europe, the Pentagon has formally notified NATO allies that it's significantly reducing warships and aircraft dedicated to European operations. Meanwhile, in Asia, China has detained a U.S. citizen. Yumin Zin, a UC Berkeley researcher studying Myanmar politics, was picked up on espionage charges. And finally, over in Eastern Europe, Ukraine is fundamentally shifting war dynamics. They're deploying autonomous ground drones. We're not just talking surveillance here. We're talking frontline logistics, evacuations, and direct assaults. It's a real game-changer for autonomous land warfare.
So all of these geopolitical tensions don't just happen in a vacuum, right? Let's move to Section 2 and see how this builds into the broader business and economic landscape.
$107. That was the average per barrel price for global Brent crude oil in May. Now here's the kicker. This actually represents the first monthly decline in crude prices since December 2025. This fluctuation is being driven almost entirely by the ongoing 3-month de facto closure of the Strait of Hormuz. The energy markets are basically holding their breath right now.
And the economic fallout of this blockade? It's massive. Economists estimate this disruption is costing Iran roughly $500 million every single day. Meanwhile, WTI crude is holding steady around $82.83 per barrel over the weekend. But, this isn't just about trading floor numbers. Public health researchers are actively warning that these sustained energy shocks are creating a global crisis in heating fuel poverty. Plus, the rising energy prices are driving up the costs of industrial chemicals, which hits the global production of pharmaceuticals and food directly. A peace deal could reopen the strait and release months of constrained oil supply, but for now, the real-world pressure is immense.
Shifting gears over to tech, let's talk about SpaceX. Under the ticker SPX, they just executed the largest IPO in U.S. history. They debuted at $135 a share, closed Friday up 19% at $161, and settled near $155 over the weekend. The financial windfalls here are just staggering. The underwriters, Goldman Sachs and Morgan Stanley, pulled in an estimated $500 million in fees, and because of this historic debut, Elon Musk's net worth officially crossed the $1 trillion threshold on Friday. To put that into perspective, that is roughly the entire GDP of the Netherlands, held by a single person. Wild, right?
While SpaceX dominates the public markets, the AI arms race is exploding in the private sector. So the crucial point here is the momentum from Anthropic. Their annualized revenue run rate has now surpassed an unbelievable $30 billion. They've got over 1,000 enterprise customers, each spending more than $1 million a year on their Claude AI platform. According to Venture Analysis, this positions them ahead of OpenAI in corporate business adoption, though OpenAI strongly disputes that claim. With this kind of momentum, reports are surfacing that Anthropic might pursue their own IPO as early as Q4 of this year, with an estimated $60 billion valuation.
Let's bring things back stateside now. Section 3, Domestic Politics and Law. We're going to take a strictly factual look at a couple of major developments unfolding in D.C. right now.
The most visible domestic story this weekend involves the John F. Kennedy Center for the Performing Arts. Let's trace the timeline of this legal battle, which stems from Representative Joyce Beatty's lawsuit. Back in May, a federal judge ruled that because Congress legally created the center's name in 1964, only Congress can change it. That led to a midnight deadline this past Friday to remove President Trump's name from the facility. The Trump administration requested a block, arguing the name change supported hundreds of millions in fundraising, but a federal appeals court denied that request. So by Saturday morning, the facade was covered in tarp and the bronze letters were removed. And by noon, the Justice Department filed official certification confirming the complete removal.
Also in Washington, we're tracking a really significant intelligence gap. FISA Section 702 has officially lapsed because Congress left for recess without voting on its renewal. Why is that a big deal? Well, the government states the specific authority accounts for more than 60% of the intelligence in the president's daily briefing. On the enforcement side, President Trump announced on social media that a U.S. strike killed Hector Rutherford Guerrero Flores, the alleged leader of the Venezuelan gang Tren de Aragua. Now, as of this explainer, that claim does remain pending independent verification.
Moving right along to Section 4, let's talk about extreme weather and climate. Planetary shifts are making a very severe impact across North America right now. And this brilliantly illustrates exactly what's going on. NASA data has officially detected a major sea level rise in the Pacific Ocean, confirming a rapidly strengthening Super El Niño event. Forecasters are warning this could actually rival historically record-strong seasons by the fall of this year. We are already feeling it.
Because of those shifts, we're seeing intense localized weather threats. A dangerous heat dome has an absolute grip on the Southwest and Texas. In Dallas, the heat index is expected to hit 103 degrees, with breezy winds. Health officials are urgently advising people to limit outdoor time and, of course, check on elderly neighbors. Meanwhile, completely different story in the central states. The Storm Prediction Center has severe thunderstorm watches up for central Nebraska and Kansas, with massive hail and damaging winds heading down into the lower Missouri Valley.
All right, let's provide a lighter landing for our explainer today. Section 5, our weekend sports roundup. Let's look at the huge athletic competitions happening right now.
Starting on the hardwood, Game 5 of the NBA Finals is underway. The Spurs currently lead at the half, heavily anchored by Victor Wembanyama, just completely shutting down the paint. But the pressure is on because the Knicks lead the series 3-1. They are hunting for their first NBA championship since 1973. One more win gets it done. Over on the pitch, the World Cup group stage is delivering. Brazil and Morocco battled to a tight 1-1 draw in New Jersey, while Scotland is currently leading Haiti 1-0 on a sharp rebound goal from John McGinn. Finally, the U.S. men's national team is riding a ton of momentum after a dominant 4-1 opening win over Paraguay. They play Australia next in Seattle on June 17th.
So, from the basketball court to the high stakes of the Strait of Hormuz, absolutely everything is in motion right now. Which leaves us with this final thought. How will these parallel threads of rapid global diplomacy, massive trillion-dollar technological leaps, and historic environmental extremes shape the second half of 2026? It's a giant puzzle, but breaking it down helps us see the whole picture. Thank you so much for joining me for today's explainer. Keep asking questions, stay focused, and as always, stay curious. I'll catch you in the next one.